Welcome to Our Drummers Musicians, your backstage pass to Melbourne's vibrant music scene. Recorded on a cosy couch in Brunswick, join us as we explore what it truly means to be a musician and speak to the diverse talents that make music in our city. Today we're excited to welcome Jess Singleton to the show. Jess is an indie pop singer-songwriter who performs and releases music under her stage name Sidney. With 2 EPs and multiple singles under her belt, she has amassed hundreds of thousands of streams on Spotify and had her songs played on Australian radio, performed headline shows, and supported major artists like Angus and Julia Stone, the Reubens and Tiny Habits from the US. Beyond her original music, Jess has also carved out a successful niche as a wedding singer, providing acoustic music for ceremonies and receptions across Australia. Jess sings and plays both guitar and piano. She has gained additional recognition on social media, where her bridal entrance mashup videos on her Sung by Jess account have gone viral, amassing millions of views. Join us as we delve into Jessie's journey as a musician, explore her creative processes, and discuss the challenges and successes of balancing a career in original music with a thriving wedding singer business as well. We want to take a moment to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast was recorded. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Welcome to the podcast, Jess.
Thanks. That was great.
I'm glad you liked it.
That was so entertaining.
What is the most recent album that you've listened to?
Oh, great question. I'm trying to think on the fly. I reckon it was... Oh, golly. Can I open my Spotify?
Sure. Yeah, let's get the real most recent album that you've listened to, rather than the one that sounds really cool for you to say.
Yeah, I know. Well, because I feel like I do consume a lot of, last year I consumed a lot of my own demos that I didn't even get a Spotify Wrapped because I'd listened to too many off Spotify things that were all just demos of my friends and mine. This year I really have tried to listen to a range. The most recent album was, drumroll please, Ariana Grande's new album, which is actually, I hate to say it, but I just was so interested because she hadn't released in a while. And then I listened through and there's some really cool things in there, despite I know it's Ariana Grande, she's from 2010, but I don't know. Anyway, I was really excited to listen to it as something a bit different.
What's the new album called?
Great question. Eternal Sunshine of the Mind, I think. It was inspired by the movie. Mm-hmm. And I got really, I was fed it by TikTok. I think they really primed me to go and listen to it, and it worked. But yeah, she had a really cool song on there called, which one is it? Oh, I'm doing a terrible job. You're going to have to edit out so many of my gaps.
That's fine.
We Can't Be Friends. It went viral on TikTok. But what I was so interested in was the fact that the song, everyone thought it was the title, We Can't Be Friends. It'll be a great lover or friendship kind of quarrel, blah, blah, blah. And then you listen to the lyrics and it's talking about her relationship to the public. And I haven't really followed her personal life too much. I used to when I was a kid. But it's really interesting when you listen to those lyrics. A lot of people would have just breezed past it and gone oh, this is so relatable, blah, blah. You look deep into it and it's talking about, people either loving her or hating her and talking about waiting until that story passes. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting when pop people write about interesting things like that. It was cool. So I actually really enjoyed it, but I wouldn't go back and listen to a lot. There's probably 2 songs in there that are on my running playlist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned TikTok.
Yeah.
You do a lot of TikTok.
I do. Yes.
It's not a world that I know anything about.
Sure. Are you on the talk?
I am not on the talk.
Okay.
So could you, is that how they refer to it, or is this you teasing
that's
me?
just me.
So tell us about your life on the talk.
You went with it. Yeah, I use it quite a bit at the moment. It's been probably the social media platform that took off more for me than it did the other ones. The other ones took time. And I liked it because it was the first sort of social media experience of people getting a little bit more behind the scenesy, a little bit more just be goofy, show this, be imperfect. And that's when that real move of social media happened. And I kind of liked it because it meant the pressure was off. It was kind of like, I can just be like, I'm an absolute dork. Like, but there was all this pressure on Instagram to have a really perfect grid back in the day. And like everything was well-intentioned, probably Photoshopped. That was the vibe. TikTok was not like that. Now, obviously it's changed again since I started in 2020. And I didn't think it would stick around. But overall, as an app, it's been really cool because you can... Like live streaming is how I got a lot of followers. I would just do requests and I would play some originals and I do that. And it's all about like building a community. It seems to be that on social media as a whole, but it's really good to be able to like, you could live stream, you could make videos, you could stitch other people's videos, you can comment back to people and reply to comments with another video and just like engage people. So it's been really interesting and a fun experiment because I used to do videography back in the day and to kind of utilize that fun editing stuff if you want to, or you just do a face to camera thing. And I don't know, it's all very experimental. I haven't cracked it. I don't have 100K followers on there. I only have 50K, but that's still bigger than like, you know, some people. So I've just been really consistent on the app and built a like very dedicated but smaller fan base from it. So,
50,000 people, if you imagine them in a room coming to listen to your music, is no small number.
That's true. That is very true. And then, you know, on Instagram, I probably only have 6,000 followers on Sidney Instagram, but on my wedding page, it's 66,000. So on more than that now, I think. And it's just so interesting how certain types of videos perform on different platforms better than others, but across TikTok and Instagram, like you mentioned in the intro, those mashups have just gone really well and stuff. So it's been really interesting, and I've just kind of gone along with whatever has performed well just because I know that I like getting my voice in front of more new people allows even the smallest little crack to help like them see my original music or wedding business. Like it's all a win, really. Yeah.
Well, it's quite impressive that you've got this like, I don't know, almost like marketing hat, or it's like it's part of your business.
Yeah.
It's not like you're not talking about using this as like a personal user. You're talking about playing your original music or doing like the cover work. It's all part of building these brands that you have under your musical acts to you know, support the original music or bring in business to the wedding the wedding music that you do. Totally.
Yeah. And I think I had a job in a gym before I started working full time in music, and I came on as their social media coordinator because they didn't have anyone, and they were like, you're young, you'll know stuff. And I just learnt on the job and kind of applied my creativity that, you know, is in songwriting, but also in video making. And I've always like, I don't know if everyone wanted to be a YouTuber back in the day, but I definitely did. And I had a YouTube channel called Jess in Boots, if you remember. And like, so I've always loved being in front of the camera and being personable. It's why I love being on stage. And so it felt like a really easy, natural thing. Some people, it doesn't come naturally. Like there are some people who will go away, they will make a record in a cave and it'll be the best thing you've ever heard. And but they do not want to get in front of a camera. And that is just as much artistry as someone, I think, that is also able to get in front of the camera and creatively hook people in with certain things and relate it to their story through saying, hey, if you've struggled with this, I reckon I've got a song for you. And like some of them perform well. And so it's been really helpful and like good to separate it too and go, I'll use these as a tool. But as soon as you take the pressure off and you don't go, it has to do well, or this is the make or break, and I need a song to go viral for my music career to go anywhere. Like that's the pressure you hear about some of my friends who are on labels and they just don't want to do it. Whereas I do it from a fun, everything is a win kind of mindset. It's helped a lot. So it's helped with burnout too, to not do that.
Like to avoid burnout.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Like it's interesting that you talk about like, you mentioned like, I only have 50,000 followers on my TikTok account.
Okay, that's me trying to be...
But like, you know, it's happened quite quickly. You only started TikTok in 2020, so that's 4 years ago. And like the Instagram has had like exponential growth in your like followers there.
Yeah.
What's it like having, you know, a video go out that suddenly has 1 million views when, you know, previously you were posting and it was having like thousands of views or sometimes tens of thousands.
Yeah.
But then, you know, the sudden change of, I've put out this video of me singing. It's like an interesting cover, you know, done in a way to say, this is how you could use it at your wedding ceremony. And then suddenly your music performance of these covers is just like connecting with, you know, it's such a different audience because it's so much bigger.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's really cool, and it's definitely very encouraging, but it also is a reminder to me that like you can't put all of your time and effort into one video. The more hits you do overall, the more chance. It's like you miss every shot you don't take. If you can treat it like that and just go, sometimes the algorithm, there are certain smart video elements that I'll have refined to go, that performed pretty well, let me try and keep trying that and stuff. But overall, I think I've had to just go, some will do well and some won't, and we'll just see. And the ones that have done well, it's been really, really awesome. Like, it meant I could release a song. I chose to put out a cover of Simply the Best in, I think it was like a 3-day turnaround. It was really quick, just as an experiment to go, if I put this through, how many people from seeing a video will go across and and see how many hits. And then within, I think it was 3 weeks, it had reached 70K streams, which for my streaming was amazing numbers for the time.
Is this just Spotify streams of the Simply the Best cover?
Yeah, exactly. So it's still something that my manager and I are discussing, is going, how do we try and merge the funnel a little bit? Because people aren't brides forever, but they love and are connecting with your voice. How do we try and use it all to boost both things? Because ultimately, like, I'd love to be an originals artist full time, but whilst I'm still growing, maybe this is a nice avenue to try and, you know, find some more people, find that thing. Yeah, so
how do you feel about, you know, the split between doing the like wedding singing and doing your originals project? Do you treat them quite separately, or is it just, it's all part of you, so, you know, it's the same, or like a different version?
Yeah, for a long time it had been very separate. But after a while, I think the more I've discussed it with people like my manager Grant, or even just looked at how the mashups are being received on the wedding account, I heard this, like I read this article about G-Flip, how, do you know who G-Flip is?
I do, yes.
How they started as a wedding drummer and posted all these wedding drummer videos. Do you know this? Am I re-explaining?
I don't know the story, no. Like, I know her music now. But,
yeah. So they put all these videos out of that and knew that it would perform well. And then once it hit 20K followers, I think, back in the day on Insta, they then started posting singing videos, and then took that following to a label and went, I have clout, like, you should sign me. And that's where the first record deal came about.
Wow, great idea.
So Grant, my manager, he sent me that article, and he was like, I think we do this, like, just keep going whilst it's, you know, whilst it's graced, whilst things are happening, build it as far as you can get it, then maybe consider, you know, reshaping what it's titled or what's in the bio to make it more just a singing account rather than a wedding singer account. So now I'm trying to look at it more holistically, because it is me, whereas I felt really divided. And that's why I think I've gone, actually, maybe all of this is good, and maybe all of this can be used because it is me, it's my voice. How do I merge everything together? But I would hate for all of it to go away and me to become a cover-only releaser or just a singer-songwriter, piano and voice releaser, because I have elements of indie pop stuff that you've even played on, and I would hate for that like stuff to go away completely and it only be one genre, one vibe. I don't know how ambitious that is. I have no idea, but I would ideally love to do more than just that.
Well, it's exciting to bookmark now to go, you've already mentioned how many streams you have, say, on the cover, and how many followers you have on a bunch of different apps. So by the time this episode comes out, like a
time capsule.
Exactly. It'll be funny to look back and go, okay, like did the growth change? Have you already like rebranded? Have you found a different way to do it, or is it just continuing, you know, in the same exponential growth trajectory right now?
It's true. We've done this at a great time.
Well, what's it like? You know, if we focus on the original music project for a bit.
Yeah.
You know, you've put out some EPs and put out some singles.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know. Does it all feel like you, or does it feel like each time you put out a new track, you're finding like a new sound or a new vibe, and it's like a developmental, you know, train of the ever evolving sounds that you make, and the music that you make, and the lyrics that you're writing about?
Yeah, good question. I think it has always been ever developing, because when I started doing it, it was still, again, it was not too long ago, like it was 2020. And I'd never stepped foot in a studio or done a songwriting session before. So every single time I kind of went to the drawing board, it was like, well, what do we try now? Like, let's see. And what am I excited by? And that initially started with a very like Lennon Stellary, Julia Michaels influenced sound. And over time, the production that I've lent more towards, or the more response I've had from people, it's always been like, your voice is what joins it all together, not, you know, the type of production on that thing. So don't feel tied to that. We'll stick with you. That has been the general fan gist of things. And it's allowed me to explore a bit more. And on the stuff I've been working on recently, I went on a writing retreat down to my parents' house, and I had two producers with me, and we just wrote a bunch of music, and some of it just like went, okay, great, we got that out of our system, that's not going to revisit that. But some of the most magical or like soul connected stuff I've worked on. And so every time I release, it's always stuff that's like been on a while, and I'm already working on the next thing. And a lot of the time I'm finding I'm more excited about obviously the new stuff. But I think there's still merit, and I'm learning there's still worth in putting out everything. Like, someone will connect at some point with that thing, and as long as you are proud of it and it's not like completely going against who you are, then I think all material is kind of worth just putting out to see who that might help or reach or things, at least with my mission of music, I guess, which is to just hopefully help people feel seen and have music to walk them through seasons. And so all of my songs had been sad, and I was known as like Sidney instead of Sidney because of how sad everything was. And I thought that was just going to be the vibe, and that was Sidney to a T. And now I'm realizing, as I started to put snippets out of songwriting sessions where I started writing pure love songs, obviously there's still clever hidden stuff. I hate a really cheesy love song, which is funny coming from a wedding singer. But I think then I saw that the connection didn't stop. People still connected, and whether they were happy for me and they loved the song because they're like, we're excited for you, or whether they're like, one day I hope I get to, you know, walk down the aisle of this or feel this. I'm learning that all of those emotions are relatable, not just the sad stuff that I used to sing about. So I guess, yeah, all of that to say, like, it's ever evolving with the seasons I'm in. I can't seem to write from what's the right word? Like a inauthentic place. I can only write on what I'm feeling at the time, and then, you know, move through. And so some of the stuff I perform now I don't maybe relate to as much, but some people still do, and I still am proud of the songs. So yeah, that was a really big ramble. My apologies.
Don't apologize. It's all just about, you know, getting to know you and sharing your thoughts.
Yeah.
If we think about what you're trying to do sonically, I know that you're like massively into lyrics, but is there a sound or a vibe that like gets you most excited about the music you're making that's not, you know, let's say like the structure of the music, like the actual song that you've written with like chords and a melody and some lyrics, but you know, what's going on in your mind about the rest of the sonic scape of your songs? Or is that something separate to you that you leave for the producer to come up with?
Great question. I think it depends a little bit on the song's content. Like, I love to have a say. I'm very much hands-on. I wouldn't just go to the producer, what do you hear? I probably would have when I first started, but that really didn't go well for my first single, Bullet. That was an interesting song that I don't revisit.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I didn't know what I wanted, so I couldn't articulate that. So the producer did a great job, but I don't connect to that song and the message of the song connecting to the production. In my opinion, it feels disjointed, and I'm not as proud of that as I probably am with everything else.
Right.
Where I started to know what I wanted, how to explain that, how to get that out of people. Like, that sounds really horrible. Like, how to allow them to do what I need them to do. And I think a big part of all of it sonically had been my producer, Ben, who I did my first writing session with. He and I kind of developed the sonic landscape of Sydney first, and both of us have evolved over time with the projects we've worked on, with everything like that, the influences we listen to. But I really trust Ben's judgment, and I've really loved the worlds that he's helped build. And sometimes he just understood what I wanted, and he'd go off and he'd build something, and he'd be so open for me to say, nah, I hate it. But so many times I would just go, yeah. Like for my song Imposter, that was a song where we created what is listed as the extended version, which is less streamed than the actual main single that we put out. The original intended version, he just built this like 1 minute extended outro that is meant to feel like you are just like sinking like either sitting on the bottom of a shower or like sinking your head into a bathtub and just like wanting to drown out the loudness of your mind. That was exactly the sound and sonic world that we wanted to capture, and he just did that. And it like, yeah, I love it so much. So I think it's fun to experiment with each record. And so this most recent one, I was really influenced by Casey Musgraves. Have you listened to her newest album?
Oh, I don't know about the newest one, but I know her
Golden Hour one, Lucy
very
Loves,
well.
I know,
Yeah.
Yeah, she just put out one, and it's like, yeah, it's awesome. But obviously she's very country, and I was like, oh, I really love that. And I've been leaning more into my, like focusing more on highlighting my voice rather than drowning it out with production and making people feel intense things. Like there's a time for that, but I was really loving the stripped back nature of stuff and organic instruments. So then that's the sound that we most recently headed into. And so there's still like the compressed vocals and the way that like, yeah, the vocal prod and stuff like that, that's probably very similar to a point. But we're introducing more and more organic elements into it, because I feel like that all in all is the sonic soundscape is going. I have the versatility to do a pop show, like a heavy pop show, or a really like stripped back one where there's actually no tracks or, you know, amplification. It could just be me and my acoustic guitar. So just wanted to highlight those strengths too, and just look at the project as showing every side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah,
because you perform quite... well, you perform in a lot of different setups. Like you do a lot of your support sets solo.
Yep.
Sometimes with an acoustic, but mostly electric guitar played by yourself, and you sing with a harmonizer pedal.
Yeah.
But then you've also done the band stuff where, you know, most recently your headline show was with like a large backing track run by, you know, your producer bringing in sounds from the music that you'd already made. With live drums and guitar on top. Yeah. And then you've also done the first band sound with Lucy and I and Aaron and Ryan, which was more of like a traditional band sound. Yeah. Even like leaning into the more folk indie thing with like some songs where I was playing like brushes and stuff. Yeah. And it's like, you know, there's so many different sounds, and it's like evolved and changed, but it sounds like you're sort of, you know, coming a bit more full circle, I guess, to like some of the earlier ideas that you were having for at least like being able to practically present the music. Yes.
All of this just reminded me that I listened to another album after I listened to Ariana, and it's Lizzie McAlpin's new album.
Older.
Yeah.
I have listened to that album.
Yeah, it's good.
It is great.
You just reminded me. I had no way of checking other than looking at songs I'd put into playlists. Anyway, great album.
So does it feel like you're going back to like a vibe where going forward live, the sort of tracks version of Sidney has like had its time, and you want to go back to playing like a live set with more of those like acoustic style instruments? Or it's something where you'll still be playing the old songs, but it's just like the new music that you put out will have more of like an acoustic influence?
Yeah, I honestly haven't figured it out yet because so much of my support playing at the moment is where the focus is, and that's just solo and doesn't require me figuring it out. I just keep doing that. But towards the end of the year, I think we're going to plan on touring the new record, and that will be when we try and figure out a way. I reckon it'll have subtle tracks, but it'll be mostly a thing of a live focus. Bands are just so expensive, so I guess it was like, it was a good way to save some money by, that's why everybody is like touring. Holly Humberstone literally just did tracks and it sounded like a full band because of the style of music she made. So yeah, that's something I've got to kind of nut out and figure out. But I have no idea. I just know I love both, and I don't really want to have to put myself too much into a box either which way. I think it is a strength of me to have the flexibility to do both. And yeah, whatever I'm most excited by, I'll try and do that, unless I have a label telling me you have to do it some way. But I don't. I'm independent. I can kind of just keep going with whatever is working. Honestly, that answer just shows you I have no idea.
Well, it's all part of it. Some people love planning everything out, and others are just adapting to what's happening, and you're going through juggling so many different projects and growth. So see what happens.
Yeah, but that's why it's been so easy to just go, actually, maybe I'll even just tour solo. Like, I have the ability to do that. Matt Corby did all those garden shows. Actually, not all of them were solo, sorry. He did do some with his band. But, I'm just learning that not everyone can do lots of different things. So if you have it, why not try and showcase that you can? And I like being able for people to click onto my Spotify after they see me at a piano singing really softly with no auto-tune, and then hear that I've got a record that's like really intense, and then other ones that are like, oh, that's beautiful and soft, and like being able to, give a little bit around without it being totally a different world when I should have a different project, I guess.
Oh, it's all part of the experimentation, I guess.
It is. If you take the pressure off, it doesn't matter. I'm not answering to anyone. I'm answering to me.
Well, what's it been like doing your like support sets for like, name some of the bigger artists like Angus and Julia Stone and the Reubens and stuff. What's it like when you are coming out to warm up a crowd like that where, you are playing your original music, but you're also supporting, a significantly bigger artist that has, a big reputation and a large following. So
only slightly bigger.
That's right. I did miss that in a negative way. But what's it like? What's it feel like when you get the call to say, oh, come and support Tiny Habits when they come to Australia? And then what's it feel like on stage when you're, warming up a crowd for Angus and Julia? Yeah.
I mean, the amount of times I've had to hold loosely when someone will say, we think this is going to go ahead. And then you're just waiting for the moment where they go, yeah, sorry, we found someone else, or this, I've had that happen before. And so many times it's like, those big ones, they're last minute and they're like, everything happens at once and you're like, oh, okay. And now I'm suddenly on stage. Okay, cool. But I think mostly like, what do I think? One, I get so excited because I'm just like, every time there's a massive opportunity, I'm just like, I feel like I'm where I need to be with coming with these opportunities. Being someone who is completely indie, that is something that people ask me all the time of going, how did you get that? And I'm like, honestly, no clue. Like, I can maybe assume sometimes socials, but back then my socials weren't big when I got those gigs. So, except for Tiny Habits, that was literally, they saw a TikTok that had 800 views and they showed each other and went, oh, we should get this girl. And that's how that came about.
Wow.
Power of social media, I tell you. But warming up a crowd, I think there's beauty to them having no idea who you are, because you're not going, oh, there's all this expectation. They've paid $1,000 to see me. I better do a good job. Maybe that's a different thing that, I'll have to deal with. But when I'm warming them up, I go, I'll either be their cup of tea or I won't. And I got really good at doing a solo support, that when it was finally time for my headline show and doing like with in-ears and a big band, I was like, oh, I don't know how to connect with my crowd as well as I did when it was just me, because I'm in full control of the tempo, of how quickly I move on to the next song, all this sort of stuff. And, you know, I'll try and work some covers into those sets to really like bring people along, because when they hear something familiar, then they see your artistry on something they know and have reference for. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's really, for me, it's so fun trying to win people over. I don't know whether that's just because I have anxiety and I'm always trying to win people over when I meet them. But in regards to a crowd, like I have a wacky sense of humor, and I'm such a dork on stage, but I believe it is adorable. Not other people's words, not mine. And like, I remember one time I played a gig in Sydney opening for Shannon James's tour, and I heard these girls down the front going, "She's just so effing funny." And I was like, yes, that's all I wanted. I don't even care if you like my music. I just need you to think I'm funny. And so it was like, it was just so, it's just so fun to kind of just be yourself. And I think, playing live is something that I just have grown up doing and loved, because I did music theatre before I did any of this. Entertaining people and having a joke, and to contrast with how sad some of my songs are, to be able to like also make people laugh. It's just a really like, it's such a communal thing, and it's so fun. And then if you win people over, amazing. And if you don't, they didn't know who you were anyway. So like, yeah.
Well, if we go right back, you know, you mentioned music theatre, but, you know, I know lots of things that you've done, but perhaps you could like walk our listeners through like, you know, a bit of how you actually got started singing and your other sort of musical experiences across the year that have like got you to where you are now.
Do you just want a cameo in my story? Is that what you're waiting for?
No.
So when I was born, Luke was already alive. I guess, so I started singing in church when I was super, super young. That's probably the first memory I have of music. And like, we come from a musical family, for the listeners that haven't clued on. Luke is my brother. We started in high school. I was always under his shadow because he was a drummer. And it was always like, oh, you're the drummer's sister. Or like, and that was my reference of how good I was going to be at music, was always being overshadowed. And now he's got a podcast.
But I don't have any followers in the comparative numbers to you.
No. So we went busking and started Luke and Jessie Singleton, the duo.
Oh boy, you've really fast forwarded through quite a lot to that. Yeah, let's maybe I'll guide you through this. Yeah. So you said that you were singing at church. Do you remember doing that as a kid in the congregation, singing at church?
Oh no, up the front.
That's the very first memory you have, was you know, singing worship music in a church, but leading it, not I suppose being in a choir or just part of a service.
I just remember being one of the backing vocalists of like one of the morning services with a lady called Beth Barnett. Mm-hmm. And we would have like a Christmas service, and I would always get the solos. So it was always kind of, they would have church musicals and things that I'd be involved in. I was Mrs. Beaver in Narnia the musical, and gutted that I didn't get Susan. To this day, those buck teeth drawn onto my chin haunt me. And the furry overalls, don't get me started.
Wow.
Is that what you wanted?
No, it's not that I wanted anything. So, but you don't remember like singing as a kid, or like being in school choirs or anything like that?
Yeah.
Or I don't know, even just singing at home. Like, I remember you singing at home all the time, but perhaps those memories...
but that was more high school in my opinion. I probably did sing all the time.
It was High School Musical. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would wake up every morning and watch High School Musical on the desktop computer that we had in the family dining room. I remember that, and I would do all of my homework early enough that I could watch it again in the evening. So that was twice a day, daily dose. Doctor recommended. Dad banned me from...
It was way too much. Yeah.
But I was definitely into it. And then I think because theatre and musicals is like the main thing that you see in school and reference music to generally, unless you're doing orchestra, which I tried to play the violin in year 6. It didn't go very well, so we stuck with singing. But I do remember learning piano in prep with you, actually. Mm-hmm. I remember that. And then I came back and learnt jazz piano and worship piano in year 6, I think it was, and did that for a couple of years as well, but never like classical. That's, another music involvement that I remember.
Yeah, so you spent a lot of time watching musicals and listening to musicals. It's interesting that you say that like that's the most relevant or main reference point for a lot of people, because it definitely is for some. And music theatre is one of the most sort of successful performing arts things in Australia, but it was definitely not a world I was very connected with. And so far of most of the podcast guests, I'm not sure if anyone else has referenced musicals specifically as something that has shaped their music time. But it was something that you were thinking about studying and studying music or pursuing music theatre a bit more seriously. What was that period of time like? Because the music you make now is very different to, the music theatre world and, acting and dancing and singing and, doing other people's music rather than your own thing.
Yeah. Well, I remember in high school, I think from year 7 or 8, I was like the lead in all the musicals. So that was probably like, I loved performing, and that was probably something that I was given a lot of opportunities to do at our school. But I particularly enjoyed just like, the emotion of music theatre, being able to like tell stories and entertain people, make people laugh, make people cry, all that stuff. And probably makes sense as to where I've landed, where I am entertaining people with funny things and also sad things and different things like that, even now. But I remember in year 8, I wrote my boyfriend at the time, his name was Kirk. I wrote him a song called Magic, and I remember I made the food tech teacher cry whilst I played it to the class for music. And it was all like, all these things are magic to me. Like that was the song.
And there's so many things to hang on to break this down. You were in a music class run by the food tech teacher?
No, she was just one of the supervisors at the lunchtime show. So I said to Kirk, I was like, please come. I'm playing a song about you. And then everyone was there in my music class and auditions.
Oh, this was a lunchtime concert?
Yes.
Okay.
From that. So I was either a songwriting class or a music class or something in year 8. Anyway, but amongst that, I was also in the musical. We did Fame, the musical. You played in the band.
I did.
And so I think I was kind of just like anything music. Give me anything music where I'm singing and I'm entertaining people. Don't sit me in front of sheet music. I remember panicking about having to sight read. And jazz, I had other friends who loved jazz. That was never something I really warmed to very much. But when it came to music theatre, I guess that was the only thing I'd had a lot of experience in then. I'd done YABC, I'd done other things like that, and I was like, maybe that's what I'll do. But then obviously you have to dance, and that was something I wasn't good at, and I didn't get into the cheerleaders team for a reason.
Oh, right.
So after performing in a lot of shows that didn't require dancing or limited dancing because they were lead roles, I remember being away on an Indonesia contract, and the guy who was playing opposite me was like, oh, you showed me these songs that you write. Like, why don't you do anything with them? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, theatre took all of my energy and time. And that was what I'd seen a lot of people on social media doing and being a part of that were singers. So I was like, oh, naturally, that's what I'd love to do. And he's like, yeah, but in all honesty, and he was saying this with so much love, he was like, I see you working like at 200%, trying to get to the same dance level as your peers, but your singing and your acting is way up here. So, you know, maybe it's worth trying and seeing something like you can keep doing this. But I'd hate to see you, you know, burn yourself out before you get very far in the career. And that was in the Christmas period of 2019 to 2020, which is when COVID happened. So I came home and I went, okay, I'll give myself a year to see what I can do with originals. And that's when I just reached out to anyone. I've always been a go-getter, so I kind of just like went, who do I know? How do I get this happening? Let me give it every single thing I've got. And then COVID hit, and it was perfect because I was stuck in my bedroom going, all right, I've got to try and learn how to record. And also in between lockdowns, I would go into the studio with Ben, and try that. And then that just came together so quickly. And I went, oh, okay, that's working. Cool. Then I learned everything I could. I hit up every person I could about PR and I hustled like no tomorrow. That's how it got like top of the Triple J chart on Triple J on Earth, and like played on radio, and all those opportunities started happening, and it was happening faster than some of my other peers who just started. And I went, oh, okay, maybe this is actually kind of good. So then I gave it the next 6 months, and like more opportunities opened up. After that first year, I went, yeah, I think there's something more here, and more doors are opening here than they are in theatre, and faster than theatre did. So that's kind of where the change came into play. Yeah.
Well, where did the name Sidney come from? What's the story behind choosing that as your artistry stage name?
Yeah, well, that was that's obviously our grandfather's name, but the listeners wouldn't know. So Sidney August was what?
Of course.
Of course you don't know my granddad's name. His name's Sidney August, and I remember vividly like playing him to sleep at the upright piano down at their house in Lake Tyers Beach. And it was right next to our grandparents' like bedroom door. And I just remember so many times he'd just be like, can you come and play? Could you please play me to sleep? And so I kind of wanted a different name to mine, partially so that if it all went crashing down, it wasn't my own personal name, and also to separate it from theatre. It was kind of nice to have that persona or that thing and that separation. And then it was also like a nice homage. And initially it started as Sydney Rose. So our nan's name is Rosemary. So it was like a homage on both sides. And then after a while, everybody was just like, why the Rose? It makes you sound folky, and you're doing indie pop. Like it's a bit, everyone's got Rose as their second name. I don't think you need it. And so then we did a bit of a rebrand and a bit of a shift. And now it's just been Sydney. Yeah.
Well, we've been playing a game on the podcast where we get each guest to ask a question of the next guest.
Oh, that's so cute.
So
I love that.
Well, my next question is for you.
Yeah.
From Hanny Day.
Oh.
Okay, to the next guest, whoever you are, I would like you to describe one of your favorite songs of your own in an image, in a painting, in a scene, and however you feel it could be creatively represented in another format other than song.
Other than song. Sorry. I must have messed up the sample.
That's so cute. I love Hanny. I would describe a song that I wrote called The Difference that is unreleased, and it's probably my favorite at the moment. I would describe it in a picture of a really old man with his daughter. So he would be like grandpa age with his daughter, and they're at her school, like formal or something, and he came as her date, and they're like dancing. That's the image.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What question would you like to ask the next guest?
All right, let me have a think. Okay, this is my question for you. Next person. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Nice.
There we go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, we like to finish with 5 quick fire questions.
Okay, cool.
Which I think was your idea for including in the podcast.
Brilliant.
So now you get to play the game idea that you came up with.
Amazing.
What is your favourite venue to play in Melbourne?
That I've already played, just clarifying.
Yeah. It's your favourite one to play in.
I think it would be the Nightcat or the Northcote Social Club.
What is your dream venue to perform at?
In Australia, it would be Sydney Myer Music Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
In the world, Terminal, I can't remember the name of it. Terminal NYC Terminal 2 or Terminal 5 or something. I can't remember the name of it. I just have this picture of Chelsea Cutler playing it, and I was like, that's amazing. I want to play there.
Oh, I don't know the venue. What's it like?
It's just like, it probably looks, there's like a crowd all like packed in front on flat ground, and then the second level up all the way 3 sides. I don't know how to describe it. It's nothing like amazing. It just like, I don't know why I picked that. I panicked. That's what I did.
What is your coffee order?
Oh, at the moment, oat cappuccino.
What is your favourite place to get food after a gig in Melbourne?
Oh. Places aren't normally open. I love the food at Northcote Social Club. That's why I mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, good old Mickey D's. I actually don't really like Mickey's at all. Anywhere that's open, okay? With hot chippies.
Well, finally, what is one piece of advice that you'd give to your younger self?
Whoa, I didn't know that was going to be the question. That's so funny. I would say keep going. You know exactly what you're meant to do, because I think it's been obvious my entire life. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
That's okay.
You're very talented, and I'm very proud of you and all you're achieving.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. Thanks.
No, well, you're kicking goals. You're like,
thanks.
You're just like you said, doing what you've always been doing. It's just now that you're able to live a life where you're making music and you can live off that, and you're rapidly gaining the attention of people all around the world now, because
of random athletes. That's what I've noticed recently.
Of random athletes.
Yeah, with like hundreds of thousands of followers being like, can you sing this?
Do you send them replies with?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's like,
you.
it all just comes down to like your stories of like hustling and working really hard.
Yeah.
And you're very clever, and it's all very
Thank
deliberate.
you.
And I think it can be easy for people to look on and go, oh, like I've, I could just be posting a video on the internet, and like, I suppose if people really thought about it, it's like, well, there's a reason that, you're getting the attention, and it's because you've put in so much hard work over a period of many years and of your whole life, learning your craft as a singer and songwriter too. So well done, and thank you for sharing all your stories, and it'll be exciting to see where you're at in this is episode 20. So where are you in 20 weeks from now, and where are you in 20 years from now too?
Thank you.
Thanks
Can
for
I
coming.
also add one more thing?
Sure.
I also, for anybody who is listening, that I feel like musicians as a whole get told like they can't live off music, and I'm just experiencing that within a short time that myth kind of got busted very quickly for me. So if you're thinking about wanting to do that you should definitely try, because it's definitely very possible. And also that we might not have touched on it too much, but there was like a 3-year period where I didn't touch music at all, and I was very like mentally not great. And so I think a lot of us artists probably struggle with that. So also, it's not too late to start as well, because that's been my story. Like, I'm a bit older than some other artists who are starting, but I've still been able to do it. So I just hope anyone listening that's like, oh, I can't, I'm getting too old, or I'm too sick, or I'm too whatever, like, you can use it and things will get better.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, and I guess we just have to have you back on another episode to catch up and maybe share some more about your story if you want to too.
True. I'd love to. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jess.
No worries.
Thanks for joining us on Our Drummers Musicians. I hope you enjoyed getting to know another Melbourne muso like I did. Help us grow by leaving a review, share the podcast with friends and family, and subscribe on our website for extra info. Got a guest you'd love to hear on the show? Please let us know at ourdrummersmusicians.com. See you next time.